Now I'm excited to bring to all of you Shana Richardson, another friend and colleague. She's the CEO of Sarah Technology, and one of our own that you'll recognize, Zach Christensen with the Mitchell Stankovic and Associates team. And they're going to talk to us about what all this means that we listened to today.
Thank you, Sue. And thank you, Shazia and Gary. I don't know about the rest of you watching, Shana, but we probably could have had 2 hours with the three of them just having this conversation. But it's been amazing, and I'm so honored and excited to be here with longtime Underground partner Shana Richardson. We've been sitting here, we've been watching and digesting everything that we've been hearing and seeing. And so what do you think of the Underground so far, Shana?
I think every Underground, I typically say this reminds me of why I love the credit union industry so much. I mean, the level of humanity and communication and people truly leaning in. I mean, the level of this conversation has just been, this is by far and large, I say every time we do Underground, it gets better and better, but this is topped it for sure.
Incredible, yes. Yeah. And we've had a lot of conversations about James, our host, the representation of the next gen. What was your favorite part with his interview with CUNA Mutual's CEO, Bob Trenzo?
It's hard to map down just one favorite part with James. I mean, he's got a future in whatever he wants to do, but you know, obviously he's got a role at CUNA Mutual Group. So Bob, Shazia, I agree with you that we really got to see Bob's humanity and, you know, again, him leaning into CUNA Mutual's business model. And one of the things he said was CUNA Mutual is not just a products and a services company. I mean, everything they do is designed to make members' lives better. The engagement with James, though, that I think Bob was about to crack up was when he said, "Do you know any good dad jokes?" And I think we all had a big smile on that one. But no, it was neat to see their interaction, and I think James gave all of us a real dose of reality in terms of what the next generation of members is looking for. They're smart, they're adept, and it's not just that they want mobile applications, they want to be involved in part of the process.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, Sue and Shazia and Gary touched on it, that we saw the vulnerability with Bob. And I also really appreciated the fact that the way he spoke to James was not talking down to.
Right.
He was really having a conversation about his ideas, his needs, his wants, and I think we saw that with a lot of the credit union leaders, Chuck Fagan and Lucy Ito, where they were really honest but not speaking to them as a child. And so I really appreciated that. We moved into kind of how credit unions domestically are making an impact. Did anything stand out for you?
Yeah, for sure. Maria said it was a really poignant statement that the only borders that we have are the ones that we impose on ourselves. And she's in a region of the country where they've been under, you know, duress for various reasons. And so I thought that, you know, that was her. I love the way that she spoke to, you know, probably things that are going on in her field of membership, and it was so articulate and meaningful for all of us. Caroline said without small credit unions, we would have a financial desert, which is absolutely the case. Lucy said without credit unions, we'd be in a very dark place. Chuck Fagan said a world without credit unions, we would miss out on a lot of opportunities. So there were some great nuggets from very inspirational leaders during that segment.
Yeah, and I just want to take a quick second and mention Richard Cooper from Santa Cruz Community Credit Union, who really spoke to being in an outside marginalized community within credit unions, and you know, once again, that vulnerability from leadership being shared, and him giving those experiences were amazing. So thank you to everyone who lended their voice. We then turned globally and saw some of our amazing friends out there in the world. What were your thoughts on what they had to share?
Well, Brian told a really sincere story about a point in his career, and probably a point in his life, where he was in Uganda and the community really wanted to charter a credit union, and for so many reasons it was difficult, mostly because of safety. and part of World Council's mission is to instantiate new credit unions or new cooperatives.
Yeah.
And I think he struggled with the decision for, again, various reasons, but he knew that the children in that village, if they didn't have something that was more grounding, that perhaps they end up in, slavery or in the local military, and that was a turning point for him. And so he helped to start that cooperative. And I mean, when you think about the strength, the leadership, the commitment, when you're putting your own life in jeopardy, I mean, it speaks volumes to his character, and then I think the character of our system.
Absolutely.
So that was one. Ellie talked about the value of her model, that there's a strong focus on women representation, supporting different ethnicities. She said strongly that more members will engage with their credit unions if they feel like they're heard and they are engaged regardless of what their dialogue, their ethnicity, where they live. And then Lenny made a really good point about what she's seeing in her own model, that it's imperative that credit unions teach, especially a younger generation, how to engage in a digital experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I was having a conversation with Shazia and Gary and Sue yesterday, and I told them, for me, and a lot of people ask why, in the U.S., why focus on, global credit unions, why look at them. And for me, it really is, you see them living that people helping people. Mm-hmm. We do that here in the U.S., but we do it in a very different way, and they're still starting it. They're still doing it, and so the things that they are doing and the strategies that they have are truly about, when somebody comes in, they're probably saving a life. And so I think that inspiration is important for the U.S. credit unions to remember why we started.
Why we got started, absolutely. And Mark from the Australian system made, again, a fabulous point about the number of different languages his members speak today. So when you think about it in terms of, we're not just a financial services model. I mean, we are engaged with people, and we live in such a connected world, and it is so imperative. John Pembroke said, he's like, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So use the ears more than the mouth, and he's so right, especially when we're engaging, again, not just in different, where people live, but the languages they speak and what's critical and important for them. So I'll go back to James, and because, from the words or the mouths of babes come, just the most enlightening things. But he's like, why are credit unions relevant? Why are you cool? And he just had such a simplistic way of talking about what credit unions need to do. Like, you should feed more people. That's a good idea.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And now we don't have time to unpack everything that happened with Shazia, Gary, and Sue. But was there's something that really stood out for you there?
Absolutely. That was a great conversation. I did want to go back to one thing that Sue said earlier in the segment, and it was about the importance of us really focusing on the members of tomorrow, that basically there are 1.6 billion young adults between 10 and 16, so the James of the world, and the concept of really giving our model to them. Why are we creating products and services for a new generation when perhaps they should be the ones that are leading that charge? And then I think with Shazia and Gary, Gary, you mentioned the importance of access to broadband, and that really resonated. We need, strong focus support on infrastructure, especially in rural areas. And that, it's kind of the concept of all boats rise, but there's some things that we've got to focus on, I think, not just as a credit union industry, but how we support our local area communities, our state communities, what we do at a federal level. Like, we've all got to engage in a different way. Shazia, I just love listening to you. You're so emotionally intelligent, and but one thing that you really hit on, I think, throughout the conversation was we have this innate desire to be connected, and it's so, like, if we looked at, we've all been through some strife in the past 2 years in particular, so it's never been more important that we lean in with our humanity, that we stop and we listen, that we're really strongly paying attention, and that we're doing it with with intention, that people feel like they're being engaged and brought in. And so I love that. Again, I could listen to you. You should write a book. I could listen to you all day long.
I think that's great. And the role models video that happened between the taped portion and their live portion, and then we had some really great comments on our chat for the live stream. Allison Carr from your credit union partner brought up the fact that with the next generation, we need to start meeting them where they are. And then we had a conversation going, and it's really about not just meeting them, but bringing them in and not making them feel like they're children. Those role models said that the only difference between us is height. And it's true. Their world is so much more open, and I feel like most times they're more self-aware than we are as adults. And I think we need to just stop and listen.
I was really, I was so thoroughly impressed by the wisdom of that youth group. And then their moment to reflect on whether they thought they were a mentor or not. There was some, vacillation. And one young woman said, she's like, yes, I am a role model. So you're right. I think it's just us leaning in, listening, and giving them the confidence to shine and get out in the world and teach us. Shaji, I think you made the comment of the beginner's brain, and we could use a lot more of that.
Absolutely.
So we've got a lot to learn from that young group.
Yeah. So everybody has had the chance to answer the question, the world would be a better place if. So I'm going to let you give yours.
I truly believe, I got into financial services because I truly believe that if everybody had access to fairly priced credit, they've got the opportunity to support their families, to go start a business, to support a business. But they certainly have better access to health care, into housing and any number of things that just make us well-balanced human beings. So the role that credit unions play is so absolutely important. If you took credit unions out of the equation, there'd be a huge vacuum in the world. And so the work that everybody is doing is incredibly important, and it's not just because it's not a balance sheet thing. We're not just financial institutions. We're here to learn and love and support one another, and I couldn't be prouder, again, to be a part of this community, and I appreciate you having me here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I will just quickly believe that the world would be a better place if we were intentional about the respect we give to each other as humans, and to remember that our children in the next generation are humans too. So being intentional with that as well. So thank you, Shana, for being
Zach.
here. And now I'm really excited to send it off to Sam Paxson from Co-op Financial Services, who has a special message for James.
Hi, James. Samantha Paxson here from Co-op Financial Services. What an honor it is to answer your questions today. So, what would make the world a better place? From my perspective, it's really finding common ground. If we could, as humans, really find what connects us more than what divides us, I think we could really accomplish so much in the world. And I actually think that's something special about credit unions. We find ways to share and cooperate and collaborate in order to help people in their financial lives. That's what makes credit unions cool, is that we share, we care, and we focus on what makes humans better and helps them get ahead in their lives. So excited to talk to you and talk to all the young people out there today. We need more of you, and we need your leadership. Thank you so much.
The world would be a better place if we all treated each other the way we wanted to be treated and had sympathy and empathy for each other's feelings.
If all races were to get along.
If everybody was kind and healthy. And we would read more books.
There was less violence.
If there was no racism.
If there were no poor people.
If everybody was nice and kind to each other. If we love each other.
If there was no hunger.
Use each other's strengths to just be the best version of ourselves.
If I were the president. We are the world.
everyone. The underground and credit unions are cool. All of my friends around the world, you better join a credit union.
The underground took us from offstage conversations into the classroom of the future. Thank you to James for hosting the show and challenging us to get ready for you. We better stand up and get busy because your generation is watching.
Looking forward to seeing you at the Underground Collision on November 8th. Join us as we reach beyond what is to what can be. Live from Las Vegas!